Welcome back to the podcast, Catch Some Soulshine. I'm here today with Gail Keys Allen, and she is one of our co authors in the Radical Freedom book. Wow, how appropriate is that today?
Right.
So, we are going to kind of touch on that and have a little discussion around our freedom. And Gail, I'd like you to introduce yourself and give people a little bit more information about who you are and what you do.
Okay, well, my name's Gail Keys Allen. I am a money mindset and business coach for midlife women, women in midlife and beyond. And I help women. Actually, my company name is Free Her Soul Coaching. Yeah,
Oh
so
my gosh, I
I
love that.
I literally help women be free. And when I say free, I mean free in your mind, free in your body, free in your soul, which encapsulates a lot of things, but the biggest thing is financial freedom. And that doesn't mean a big bank account. That means knowing that you're abundant, knowing that you can be self-sufficient, and so I'm sure we'll get into a lot of that, but that's really the work that I do is helping women specifically live into being free, free, free,
Yeah.
free. Like that, and actually I got that name idea probably 20 years ago, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't even have a business at that time. But I knew I wanted to free my soul. And the what that looked like for me was I didn't like some of the ways I was treating myself, like the mean thoughts I was thinking. And I was married at the time and deferring everything to my ex-husband. And it really made me feel like very small, like I had no options. And I just kept thinking, like, my soul needs to be free. I literally envisioned that, like, being in a field because I love the outdoors, like being in a field with flowers and just running through the field and laying in the grass. I love like barefoot in the grass. I'm like I grew up on the shore, so I didn't grow up in the country, but I grew up on the shore and I love being barefoot. I just envision that being freedom.
Mhm. I love that. And I think it's really important, especially for women, to focus in on that financial freedom because, I mean, it's fact. Women will often make less than their male counterpart
To-
doing the same job or even doing a better job than the male counterpart.
Right.
The opportunities are less. I know, like as a nurse practitioner, the the position of nurse practitioner is primarily women.
Mm,
But when you look at the top earners in that profession, it's typically men.
mm,
And why is that? Like, I graduated with a 4.0.
mm.
I'm active in my community, I'm doing all the things. So, why is that? Right?
Yeah.
And I just recently let go of that job completely
Oh,
because
congratulations.
just what you're speaking of, it's like I want my soul to be free. I don't want to be equated to a paycheck. I do feel that I deserve financial freedom
Mhm,
and compensation, but
mhm.
I want to be in charge of that myself.
Totally, totally, and
So,
that's how I feel, and that's how I ended up quitting my job too. I worked for many, many years, the last almost 20 as an accountant, um, but I've worked in some positions where, like, the accounting functions overlap with HR and admin and that kinda thing, and I saw time and time again where women were told there was no money in the budget for them to get a raise or they got a very small raise. And I did payroll a lot. But then I would see this guy get this huge bonus or raise. So, I saw the behind the scenes of how this works. And if we don't go for it ourselves, nobody's going to give us anything.
right. I think that's important. We have to ask for what we want. And and that is one of the things that I did at this last position. I had a list of things that I wanted, and they did not wanna give me those things.
Mhm,
They weren't budging,
mhm.
and I just knew because of the inner work that I have done with me
Right,
that I value myself,
right.
and if you don't value yourself, nobody else is gonna
So
value you
it's
like you
so
should.
true. Yeah, and the same thing kinda happened with me. I after 16 years, I didn't get a raise, and I had gotten a raise every year up until then. And when the I worked for a law firm, and the managing partner, I will never forget these words. He said, "The partners have met, and we decided you're highly compensated enough, and we're not willing to pay you any more money." I decided I'm worth more than what they're willing to pay me.
Mhm.
And
So with your program, what's like one of the key elements that you focus on with women in particular to really attain this soul freedom that you're talking about?
a lot of it, I call it from fear to flow. And earlier we were talking about a pendulum swinging, and that's how
Yeah.
I view it. So many women are have money, big money fears. And I really help them change the way they're thinking and take the actions that will lead to the pendulum swinging in the opposite direction. But if we are afraid, we typically will shut down. If we're in fear, we're going to you're tense, you're shutting down. You're not going to ask for more money. You're not going to look for ways to compensate yourself in your own business or figure out other ways to make money. And so the first thing I do is help women identify what their beliefs are around money and how they can start to change them because it doesn't matter how much you're making. I actually had a client that was a millionaire. You know, I've worked with all different levels, financial levels. People have fears around losing what they have, not having enough, and so when you're in that mindset, you're not looking for other options. Even if
Mhm.
a person that's very wealthy, if you're always afraid of losing what you have, you're not financially free. That's not
True.
freedom. And so the biggest piece in the beginning is starting with changing the way you look at things. Like Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? It's so
Mhm.
true. It sounds so simple, but it's so true. And even I was telling him, I have a niece that's a teacher, and she was saying, Auntie, I just don't like have enough money by the time I pay my rent and car note and this and that. But I said to her, instead of saying, I don't have any more money or I don't have enough money, what if you said, I wonder how I could make more money? Because just asking that question and getting curious opens your mind to possibilities. And so that is the foundation of the work. And once you start doing that and looking at other possibilities, you have to be willing to take the actions that are required. So it's not like I believe in manifestation, but I believe that with manifestation, if you don't take action, nothing is going to manifest. Manifestation is not about, oh, it just dropped out the sky and all of a sudden this 100,000 is in my bank account. No, it's about taking action, whether you're afraid. Most of the time, you're going to be afraid. So
Mhm.
it's even working through those fears, raising your energy, keeping your energy high so that you can take the actions.
Yeah.
So it's
And
almost like, go ahead.
people are afraid of failure, and I've been there, I know.
Yeah,
So, you don't take the step, you don't do what you need, you don't ask because you're afraid of failure, but if you change the way you look at failure, like,
yeah,
all the big wig, billionaire, millionaire people have had failures,
lots
lots
of
of
them.
them,
Right. But
but what do? They keep going.
but
They
it's
don't.
information. The failure gives you
Yes.
information as f I'm still afraid of failing, don't get me wrong, I don't think it ever goes away, but you can have the fear and take action anyway, and when you take action, it's no longer a unknown, and then the fear subsides.
Mhm.
Fear does not mean stop. It literally means keep going, unless you're facing, like, a rabid dog or something, some kind of real harm.
Mhm.
The fear is just gonna keep you small.
Mhm. So then once people, like, say, for example, me, I'll just use myself, like, once I get into that great mindset of, "I'm gonna do this, I'm taking these actions, I'm doing this," do you give, like, little assignments or baby steps or,
Oh,
uh,
totally.
what do
Yes.
you how do
Yeah.
you move forward with that?
Well, one of the biggest questions I ask people about is, "How much money do you want?" Because almost everybody says, "I don't have enough. I don't make enough. I don't have enough." Well, how much do you want? That's a big question for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people don't know how to answer that question. And then they will keep the answer safe, like what they think is realistic. And we don't wanna be thinking realistically. We wanna think outside of the box in possibilities. So, one of the first things I ask them to do is pick a money goal, a money result that you want. And I take them through a process. So we were talking about the way they're thinking and the actions they're taking. I work with something called the self-coaching model, which was created by Brooke Castillo. I'm certified by the Life Coach School. And we look at our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and results. And so it really starts with your circumstance. So if you desire to make $100,000, or which now is nothing really now, but I'll just use that as an example. I would put it on the result line, we call it. That's the result you want. Well, what thought do you need to be thinking to create that result? Because your thoughts create your results all the time. That's how the universe works. So, because I was an accountant, and I am type A too, I'm just a very methodical person. I just am a thinking, logical, methodical person. So this isn't even woo woo. This is the way things work. So if you decide you want to make 100,000 or you want to triple your salary or whatever the result is, then you've got to be thinking thoughts that will lead you to take the actions to create that result. And that's the process that I take my clients through. Because if you come to me and say, "Oh, I really wanna make," a lot of my clients wanna make 250, like, they already make around 100, so they're like, "Oh, I wanna make 250, 200." "Okay, but do you think you can?" "Well, no, I never did that before." Well, if your thought is, "I wanna make it, but I never did it before, and I don't think I can," you're not going to. But if you say, "I really wanna make 200,000 or 2" whatever it is, well, you can put a number in the formula. Um, then you start asking, "What do I have to think that's going to lead me to making that amount of money?" So, it might be, "I think it's possible." Like, you don't even have to say, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to make that amount of money." But if you just start with possibility and start thinking, "Well, maybe it is possible for me to make 200K."
Mhm.
And get curious, like, if I were to make 200K, I wonder how I could make it. Is there anybody like me? Like you have a history as a background as a nurse practitioner. Are there any nurse practitioners that quit their job and now make 200K? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of physicians too quitting their jobs now, leaving their practices, leaving hospitals, becoming coaches, doing other things. So you got to get curious, and you also have to look for examples. So for me, when I was at my job, miserable and wanting to leave and just annoyed because they didn't want to pay me. They didn't have to pay me anything. But I knew I wanted to make more money and I wanted to be free, which for me was not go to somebody's office every day and sit in my I had my own office, but I didn't want to sit there all day and not see daylight, especially this time of the year. It's like you go to work, it's dark, you come home, it's dark. So I started looking for examples. I started looking for people that had my experience, but had, like, stepped out of the box
Mhm.
and done something different. And I literally, before I quit my job, found a coach. I'm not a CPA, but she was a CPA who was in, like, a high level position with a CPA firm and quit to become a coach, and she helped other women quit their jobs and become coaches. And so I'm like, who is better to help me than somebody who is in the accounting field. I had been in that field and became a coach, which I was becoming a coach. We look for evidence. So
Yes.
that's what I would tell people. Look for evidence for what you desire because there is evidence out there. There's evidence.
When you were talking about setting the goals, and my goal is much higher than 250,000, but
Right.
I read the book 10x is better than 2x, right? So I could say, "Oh yeah, I want to double my salary and I want to make this amount." Or I can say, "Pfft, this is what I'm going to make."
Right.
And the psychology of that book is so fascinating. And he used his this tennis player. I think his son wanted to be a
Yeah. I read the
college
book.
athlete.
Yeah.
And so instead of training to be on the college team, he trained with the professionals to
Totally.
be a professional tennis player.
Totally.
And what do you think happened? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he was professional, maybe not, but he darn sure made that high school team
Right.
because he set
Went
his
for
standard
higher.
higher.
Right. And so the person that I got certified by made last year 53 million. I am in rooms with this lady. I am being trained by this lady. So I don't have a desire to make 53 million. I just the amount of mind management, money, investments, there's like so much that goes into making that kind of money. But her and Rachel Rogers, who wrote We Should All Be Millionaires, like really got me thinking, why am I making, you know, I was making low 10,000 when I left my job. Why am I making that? Why am I not making a million? The only reason I'm not making a million is because I didn't know I could. Like, literally, I didn't have any examples in my world, but then when I started looking outside of my world, I started seeing all these women making millions, and I'm like, "How come I didn't know about this?" Like,
Mhm.
I don't even if we're not exposed to certain things, we don't really think about the possibility. So it's not even something that goes through our heads. So like you, my goals are way higher. I mean, I don't know if you and I discussed this, but I left my job and the next year I tripled my corporate salary. So I made 300,000, but it had taken me 16 years to double my salary and 1 year to triple my salary. So kind of like the 10x
Yeah,
example. Yeah,
yes, exactly. And if you don't go for it, if you don't shift that mindset, and there's so many little things, little pieces that you talked about. One is, who do you surround yourself with?
yeah,
And I'm not talking about, you did use the example, you have this millionaire that you have been acquainted with, but more so, do you surround yourself with the naysayers, the people that say, "You can't do that.
yeah,
Oh, that's a pipe dream. Why are you shooting?" Or do you surround yourself with the people that have dreams, aspirations, and
yeah,
positive
right.
energy? and
Totally.
that is so important.
Totally. And I lost friends, those naysayers on my journey. And they had been in my life for many, many years, but they didn't want me to talk about money. They just wanted me to be quiet and I'm just saying, no, I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not going to stop talking about money. I'm not going to stop talking about how women can make more money because especially in this political environment we're in now, you can't depend on anybody else to give you anything. You have to look at yourself and what you're creating. And I learned that through divorce years ago. You can't depend on your husband. Even if you don't get a divorce, he could die first, and unless he racked up a whole lot of money for you, you could end up like really stuck,
Mhm.
so I just believe that women, girls, women, boys too, we need to know how to make money so that if you don't get that tax refund, if you don't get that bonus on the job, if you don't get whatever that little bit of extra, if you don't win the lottery, like people are so quick to look at all those things, but they're all kind of a handout dependent on someone else. And
Well, even if you win the lottery, look at all the people that have won the lottery,
right,
become millionaires, and then you follow up with them 2, 3 years later, and they're completely broke.
right, right. But because they didn't learn, they didn't know. And I don't even blame them. We're not raised to know anything about money.
Right.
Like the most I was taught was like, this is how you count it, this is how you save it, you make it on a job.
Mhm.
Besides that, I mean, I majored in economics in college, so I did learn more than your average person. And but the only way I saw big balances in bank accounts was the law firm I worked, they made millions. So I used to always joke saying, "Oh, I count rich people's money." That's what I used to always say because I was managing, not managing per se like an investment, but I was tracking millions for 16 years. So I knew the money was there, but it wasn't mine.
Mhm.
We're not taught anything about it except to get it from a job. And I
Mhm.
think I think a lot of people are going to be hurting. I believe everybody should have a business. Not everybody agrees with me, and that doesn't mean you should like start some corporation and whatever. But I believe anything you're doing, you can make money on the side of your job. So
I
that
agree
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Yes.
So if anything happens, you have a backup. Or even if nothing happens, you have an additional funds, play money. Like,
Yeah.
what if you thought of it as your play money?
And not only that, but the benefits of, your taxes,
Right.
writing things
Totally.
off for your
Totally.
business.
Totally. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe you I 100% agree with that. Everybody should have their own little business, and it's not hard to do,
Not
you
at
know?
all. Not
You
at
can
all.
set up a I don't know how you I can't remember the steps to do it, but yeah, setting up a business is that not that hard.
Well, you know what's interesting? I'd started a YouTube channel recently, and yesterday I posted a video, and I kind of went on a rant about how easy it is. I have a little story. I have a 5-year-old grandson, and I tell the story about how all the years I was working, I just paid somebody to do my landscaping, and I just never dealt with it at all. But now I'm home every day, and I can see out my backyard, and I have big trees in my backyard, which means a whole lot of leaves.
Mhm.
So instead of paying someone, my grandson wanted to play out there, so I went and bought him his own little rake, and him and I raked the leaves. And when I don't even know where this came from, but he said, "Gigi, I make a lot of money raking leaves." He's probably been around me so much. And I just gave this example, and plus I saw a sign in my neighborhood saying, "Call this number, we'll come clear your leaves." You could rake leaves seasonally and make some money. Like, not everybody wants to do that, but him and I had fun in the yard. Now, we cleaned them up, and there's probably 10 times more that dropped this week. But, you know, people make it too complicated. Like,
Mhm.
I had a corporate job, and I used to work as a personal trainer on the side years ago. Then my the guy that trained me, whose gym I worked in, he cooked healthy food. Well, he knew I like to cook, but I especially like to bake. I started baking these healthy breads, like banana bread, zucchini bread, that then him and I had a side catering business. Like, it doesn't then I used to make jewelry. Like, I learned metalsmithing. Like, I took classes at this place, it's called the Art League, but I learned metalsmithing and started making jewelry. It was fun. Not only is it fun, but you meet new friends,
Mhm.
build new community. So it's not just the money, but to me, that's where the freedom comes in. Because even for me now, if I decided I wanted to bake and sell baked goods, I know how to do that. If I decided I wanted to make jewelry again, I could do that. If I decided to be a personal trainer, I could do that too. My sister does chair aerobics. Like, I could like,
I taught chair aerobics.
"Oh, did you?"
I was an aerobics instructor too.
So, I just want people to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
Not be victim, like, feel like a victim, because that's what a lot of people fall into. "Well,
Mhm.
I don't know how to do anything." That's what a lot of people say. Yes, you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I had an aromatherapy business too, and I made
Okay.
lotions and soaps and, spritzers, so,
Yeah,
yeah. I made
yeah.
jewelry in the pa yeah, so many similarities, but you know what? I had fun with every single
Yes.
endeavor. I loved
Yes.
doing all of them
Me
until I
too.
decided to do something different.
Me too. Me too. You
Yeah,
know? You like, I used to travel around and go to different bead shows and art shows, and it's fun. You meet so
yeah,
many interesting people. So
yeah,
it expands your life. It
yeah,
really does, outside of just that job,
yeah,
um, and that's freedom to me.
yes.
That's freedom.
Speaking of little ones, I gotta tell you this. So, my granddaughter stays with us a little bit here and there, and, she was here last night, got up, and I go downstairs, and there's 2 she moved the stool, the ottoman out of the way, and she laid out 2 yoga mats, and she said, "Grandma, we have to do yoga before school today." And
Okay.
so she goes, I'm the purple mat, you're the black mat." And I said, "Okay." So I was dropped, and I felt better after doing it. I just did some kids yoga, and I
Mhm.
dropped her off at school. She got out of the car, and she goes, "Oh, boy. Yeah, my hip feels so much better after doing that aerobics because I've been complaining about my hip hurting."
Uh,
She goes, "Does your hip feel better too, grandma?"
I've been complaining about the same thing, and I it's so funny, we do have a lot in common.
Yeah.
I walk my grandson to school. It's about 6 blocks from the house maybe, and for a few days when it was really cold out, my hip was hurting me really bad, and now when I pick him up, he said, "Gigi, is your hip hurting? Is your hip okay today?" And I'm like, "It's better. That's why we're walking today." So it's
Yeah.
so funny. How old is your granddaughter?
6.
Okay, so
Yeah,
yeah,
she's in the 1st grade, so I just got such a kick out of that. I'm like, "Wow," and you know what? I haven't been doing, like, any yoga stretching or anything, and I thought, "Boy, out of the mouths of babes,"
totally,
right?
totally, totally. But even having her with you and dropping her off, that's a form of freedom too,
Yeah.
because she will always remember that, and that
Mhm.
will bond you so much, as opposed to, being at work all day and not being involved or not able to watch her, and I know that's not everybody's idea of freedom, but we guess what? We get to write our own roadmap to freedom.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
get to we get to script it out however we want it.
And I know that we're talking about financial freedom, but it goes so much deeper than that because um, I'm right currently not making as much as I did when I was working, but I feel so abundant,
Yeah,
joyous, and free
yes,
right
yes,
now.
yes.
I just feel it in
Yeah,
every ounce of my being. And that's really what
uh,
true freedom is about.
right, and I don't know if somebody could understand it without experiencing it. You
Mhm.
know, like, I can like, this morning, I went to a class this morning on wills, doing your will, and making sure you have a will. You know, it's like, "Oh, yeah, I just could just go there, run back home, do this, walk down the street, get my grandson." And money money's gonna flow. If you trust like, so many people are just like, "Oh, what if I don't make any money?" Well, that's what if you do,
Mhm.
you know? So, I mean, I talk a lot about abundance. So to me, it's an abundance of time.
Yeah.
It's an abundance cooking my meals, like, I literally have gotten back into cooking because I have more time.
Mhm.
Going grocery shopping and enjoying it because I'm not rushing. I'm not like I used to commute like an hour, just because of traffic, like an hour to an hour and a half each way every day. When you get home at 6:30 at night, you are not thinking about cooking after you left your house at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now I'm cooking. I'm even losing weight and not even trying because during the day I go for a walk.
Mhm.
All of that is freedom to me.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think we've touched on some really key points. And what are some ways people can work with you if they want to really hone in on this financial freedom
Right.
method that you have?
Right. I work with women one-on-one right now, and I also have a free membership. Um, it is called the Abundant Woman Money Club. And so I would encourage them, I'm sure that you will link, put link.
Yes, I'll have all your links in the
But,
comments.
I would encourage them to join the free membership, where they get foundational classes from me for free, and that way they get a taste of, what it's like, what I teach, and also, my YouTube, I'm starting to put more information out there, but the main way I work with women now is one-on-one 6-month coach 3 and 6-month coaching. I will be doing a program probably early in the year, a group program. Um, but yeah, that's how they can work with me. I
Awesome.
it's about just helping women be free, make
Mhm.
money, be free because we need money to survive, obviously. But the whole focus isn't money, it's around your thoughts about what's possible for you.
Mhm.
And living a life of possibility and knowing you can do whatever the hell you wanna do, you just have to decide.
Right. And really, it's not about the end result. It's all about the journey.
Oh,
So if you're not living your best life right here, right now,
right,
then that pipe dream or that dream that you have down the road is not going to make you any happier,
right.
you
Totally,
know? So
totally.
it's been so great talking to you. And I knew we were going to have a good conversation because I had talked to you earlier. So
Right.
please, guys, check out her community and check out what she offers. And I will see you all next week.